So ladies and gentlemen, like this class, the way we run this class is now completely different than what we did before. So now I'm literally teaching you at the beginning of the class, hands down, like direct teaching. Hey, this is something new. Look at us. Or I'm literally teaching, kind of like maybe your math teacher would do. You know, like your math teacher might be literally teaching you at the beginning of the class. That's what I'm going to be doing now for, I think, for the rest of the school year. And then at the end, you'll have an assignment to do on your own. I'm pretty sure that's how your math classes are too, right? You'll learn something at the beginning and then you'll apply it to the classwork and then you turn it in. So now the STEM class is in that format. So it's very different than what we've done forever, right? I'm teaching basically every day. If you pay attention to me, the lesson, you should be able to answer the classwork that follows. Each day we're learning something new. Each day I'll teach it to you and then you'll get an assignment at the end. So it's very, very different. And the information I'm giving you is completely different. It's nothing based on the roller coaster, Coder Z. So no matter what you did or didn't do in the last 12 weeks, cool, doesn't matter. This is brand new stuff and it has an impact on your grade as well. So for those of you who kind of been slacking, well, you can turn that around right now. Start paying attention, like right now. Okay, if you go into the modules, you'll see lesson 3. You'll also see videos of that I posted. If you missed anything. When you click on that, it should send you to a link, which will open up a Google Doc. And you're not able to edit this. You're not able to do anything with this, right? And I had a student tell me the other day, like, I can't open it. I can't edit. It's like, well, I'm not asking you to do anything on this worksheet. You're not answering questions here at all. It's just for you to use. It's like a book. All the information is in that book, but you can't write in the book, right? It's like if you checked out a book from the library, I'm reading it, I'm gathering the information, but it's not like I can write on it. It's not like I can, take it apart. If you want to highlight, make notes on this document, you can do file, make a copy, and that will make you your own personal copy that you can edit, that you can highlight, that you can make notes on it, annotate. That's perfectly fine. But I'm just giving you a master solid copy that because some kids are like, what questions do I answer on this? It's like, there's no questions on here. You have to fill out a Google form or Canvas quiz. All right. So today we're going to learn the difference between a permeable and impermeable surface and how they affect the environment when pollutants flow through a watershed. Mostly everything is linked that you're going to be needing. There is some vocabulary and then the discussion questions, followed by your labs and more discussion questions, right? We won't have a lot of time to discuss all the discussion questions today, but we'll follow up on Friday. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is the very first thing that's listed here. We're going to learn about watersheds. Okay, now the information is there for you. If you want to read ahead, you can read ahead. If you need to read slower than what I'm reading, you can read slower than what I'm reading. If you want to highlight, annotate, things like that, go ahead and make yourself a copy and then it's all yours and you can do whatever you want to it. It's yours. I'm going to be reading off of this one. It is linked in Canvas. It's linked in that Google Doc. If it doesn't work, if the link doesn't work, let me know and I will try to figure out why. Although, let me see the settings. Yeah, anyone with the link can view. So the settings are good. All right. Urban versus natural watershed. When it rains, the rainwater travels as runoff over the streets and land. And then into the streams, creeks, and finally to the ocean. The area of land that runoff travels over is called a watershed. The area of land that the runoff travels over is called a watershed. No matter where you are standing on Earth, you are in a watershed, unless you're in the ocean. The boundaries of a watershed are determined by ridges of mountains and hills. Imagine a drop of water falling on a top of a peak. The direction that the drop of water travels defines which watershed it is part of. How the land is also used, how the land is used also plays a factor in how pollutants travel through a watershed. Imagine a natural watershed, a place undisturbed by humans. Imagine you are on a camping trip. The scenery consists of mainly hills, meadows, and streams. And it doesn't have many roads or pavements, buildings, etc. In our natural watershed, rainfall will primarily infiltrate into the land. In fact, in a natural watershed, about half of the precipitation can infiltrate into the ground. About 1/10 drains as runoff and the rest evaporates. Surface that water can infiltrate are called pervious surfaces. So if we're out in nature, if we're in the desert, if we're like at Yosemite or somewhere where there's like just natural land, when it rains, imagine 50% of all the water, all the rain will get soaked up by the earth because it's natural and it will soak it up. Okay. So when that happens, the earth will clean out, will filter out that water. Do you guys know that rainwater is not clean? It's not clean at all. So don't think that, oh, I'm just gonna, it's raining, let me drink this water. It's clean, it's coming from the sky. It's not clean. Side note, rainwater is not clean. Even though it hasn't landed on the earth, it's still not clean. No, so the rainwater, like that's natural. Like if you guys went outside this morning, your streets were probably wet, your cars were wet. It like rained a little bit this morning, not enough to like cause runoff, I don't think. Probably just enough to like, cover your deck, cover your sidewalks with water. So they say that rainwater, right? I said rainwater, right? What did I say? I'm referring to rainwater. Sorry, I can't remember what I just said 5 minutes ago. Rainwater is not clean because it goes through the atmosphere, which has a lot of pollution. The air is polluted, right? We all know that. Sometimes you can see the mountains full of snow, or you can just see the mountains. And then on other days, you don't see the mountains and you're just like, what happened? That's a lot of stuff in the air, a lot of pollution in the air. So rain has to go through that layer of pollution. So that's why it's not clean water. Rainwater is not even clean. Okay. So natural watersheds are found out in nature, undisturbed, where there's not a lot of roads open, and 50% of it gets sucked up by the earth. Okay. Now picture a watershed that has been developed or urbanized, otherwise called as an urban watershed. The landscape consists of schools, neighborhood, roads, buildings, airports, etc. Many of these previous surfaces of the natural watershed have been paved over, leaving hard surfaces, which are impenetrable by water. Any surface that water cannot soak through is called impervious. So we live, every one of us right now, I think, are all in an urban watershed. We all live basically in the city, all around us. When you walk outside your door, you're not stepping in dirt, right? You're not driving your car in dirt or rocks or pavement, right? You're driving on pavement, you're driving on asphalt, on concrete. You're walking outside, there's a sidewalk, right? So we live in an urban area. We all do, right? It's all developed. There is not open space, unnatural open space. We've all been developed. It's all been urbanized. So what happens? Well, the water can't soak through concrete. The water can't soak through asphalt. It goes into the storm drains, right? So what happens? Why? Okay, so next compare our urban watershed to our natural watershed as shown in the picture above, right? So here in the picture on the left side, we see it's nature. So a lot of the water goes straight down into the earth and gets filtered out. The earth can filter water. Here, we see that the water is not filtered through. It's just, most of it stays on the surface for now, and then goes into the storm drains. In the natural watershed, rain is free to infiltrate into the soil. However, our urban watershed, the paved surfaces prevent rain from infiltrating this, infiltrating it, okay? This means that precipitation in urban areas mainly returns to the ocean as runoff, and therefore there will be more runoff in urban watersheds than in natural watersheds. So you'll have more runoff in the urban watershed, more runoff in the urban watershed. There are two main effects of having more runoff due to impervious surfaces: greater volume of water and faster runoff. Water moves slower in natural surfaces, right? Faster over impervious surfaces. Imagine water flowing over a meadow compared to flowing over a smooth road. Some of the impacts of having more runoff traveling faster through the watershed includes flooding, erosion, and habitat loss. So here in the city, we want to get rid of that water off the street so we don't have flooding, right? So the water is moving very, very quickly. Sometimes, there's so much rain that the streets flood because it's just so much and the storm drains can't handle it, causing flooding. Erosion, we see that sometimes in have you ever, it happened, I think last winter, the winter before, some of the mountains started eroding and coming down into the neighborhoods. And then people lost their homes because of it. So erosion, because there's just so much water. It's like, where do I go? Everything's paved. Oh, let me just start crashing down. Not good. Another impact of urbanization is the introduction of pollutants that gets picked up in the runoff as it travels over the impervious surfaces of roads, buildings, etc. So, some of these pollutants include litter, oil, grease, toxic substance from cars, nutrients from over-fertilized grassy areas, and sediment from erosions and barren areas. So we don't get a lot of rain, right? So cars naturally deposit oil and other substances onto the road, and they just get dried up on the road, right? But when it rains, all of that grease, all that oil, all of those other chemicals that a car might be depositing onto the pavement, they get washed away when it rains. But so all of that pollutants get washed away into the drain. Not cool. These pollutants are called non-point source pollutants because they cannot be traced back to a single source. It's all cars, right? I don't know what fertilizer was, who over-fertilized their lawn. We can't pinpoint it. Without extensive natural areas for the runoff to infiltrate, as in the natural watershed, these pollutants travel untreated directly into a catch basin and then storm drains, which lead into our waterways and to the ocean. Today, environmental scientists and engineers are working to reduce these negative impacts. They have found that the best way to curb the adverse impacts of urban watershed is to recreate natural watersheds conditions with the addition of areas where the water can infiltrate back into the soil. The infiltration process slows the water down and traps pollutants. Recreating a natural watershed is accomplished in a variety of ways, which will be explored in detail during the third phase of our internship program. For those of you, I talked about this a little bit on the first day, for those of you who live like near Jefferson, between Jefferson and McFadden schools, you have like this like ditch area, like a catch basin, and then along Rate, you'll see it. And also, I just remembered right in front of Godinez High School or Century Park, there's a catch basin there. If you've ever been to the skate park in Centennial Park, if you like look over, there's like this like ditch, right? Well, that's actually like a catch basin, like a urban watershed, like that they built to catch this water. So if you're there, if you drive by Fairview, it's right on the side of the school or the park. If you go to Thornton Park, it's on the backside of Thornton Park. You'll see this catch basin. It has like these really large rocks and things like that. So in hopes that it will filter the water that goes through this. So they're just trying to improve. Like we realize like, oh my gosh, there's so much pavement. Oh my gosh, so a lot of pollutants. How can we fix it? How can we go back on our mistakes? And so they develop these catch basins, which we'll discuss later. All right. If I went too fast, I went too slow, just right. You have this document. You can highlight, you can edit. If you go to file, make a copy, right? And it's all yours. Okay, so that's the first part. So that's introducing you to the difference between urban and natural watershed. Now I'm going to show you a quick little video on what is a watershed, which I just described to you. But sometimes a video kind of reinforces the idea of what I just. So we're into the second one called the Watershed Lab. Okay. And then what I'm going to be grading for you, what I'm going to be grading is found in your modules. You're going to be doing the lab at home. And then as you're doing the lab, you are going to be answering these questions. It's called the Water Lab recording sheet. So you're going to be recording your observations on the recording sheet. It's in the form of a quiz, right? But it is totally just like a worksheet, right? So you're going to type in your answers here. So I'll show you a preview of it. Once you open it, as long as you don't close the tab, you still have access to it for the rest of the day and whatnot. So it's asking you like step 1, natural watershed. After building a natural watershed, answer the following questions. So question number 1 is predict what you will think will happen. So we're not there yet. So you'll have, I think there's 7 questions in total, right? So you have your recording sheet here. Okay, so we're going to open up the instructions and I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to do the lab live with you as well. We have about 20 minutes left in class to do this lab. Okay, so a watershed is an area of land that drains in one location. Okay, we're going to build right now the first one, which is called the natural watershed. Natural watershed. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your aluminum pan or your bucket, whatever you found, okay? And you're going to take your newspaper or paper and you're going to kind of crumble it up like this. I use some packing paper and you're going to put it in your pan. Okay, this is going to represent my mountains, right? So that's why it's like crumbled up. Doesn't really matter. Okay. And then you're going to take a plastic bag, a garbage bag, and you're going to insert your pan inside of it. Just like so. So it goes into the bag, the paper's inside, representing your mountains. Okay, so this is step 1 of the, whoa. Okay, remember I gave you the copy of the materials that you needed for this lab yesterday. This is not my favorite lab, but I'm doing it. The one we do on Friday is my favorite one of these 2. Okay. Okay, it says to place paper towels over the, plastic to cover the, place paper towels over the plastic. So I'm going to take some paper towels and I'm going to cover my mountains with these paper towels. Just like this, okay? Now, if you had food coloring, this is where you would put drops of food coloring. I have some cranberry. So the pollutants are like the sprinkles. I don't have sprinkles, but what I'm going to use with paper. I crumbled up paper and I just put it inside. Those are like your mountains and ridges. I cut up a plastic straw to use as sprinkles. Someone in my 5th period used rice as their sprinkles. I was like, that's pretty smart. So I'm gonna drop some onto my ridges. And then I'm gonna use like a couple of drops of cranberry. This is where like, if you don't have if you don't have food coloring, if you have like pink lemonade, Gatorade, this is where it would come. It's just a couple of drops, like just like very, 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 very small amounts. Be very careful not to stain anything. I'll show you what I'm doing in a second. Literally, I'm doing the experiments with you. Okay, so don't make a mess. So what I did, show you. So what I've done so far is, it's really zoomed in. I just did a couple of drops of cranberry, and then here are my plastic straws, just to show you some debris, some pollutants, right? And underneath, and then I'll show it to you here. Here is just, I have my container. The paper is inside, making this like, see how it kind of, it makes like a mountain, right? Okay. Fifth period, I forgot about the cranberry juice, so I just did the paper towels with my straws. All right, I'm building my watershed here, my natural watershed. Now the next part, oops, wrong. Here we go. Okay, place paper towels over, sprinkle pollutants over the watershed. So sprinkle the pollutants, that's the food coloring if you have it. If not, like rice, things like that. Okay. Now, before we start making it rain, predict what will happen to the water when it drains through your watershed, and add your answer to the recording. So what do you think is going to happen before we start making it rain? What do you think is going to happen to the water we're going to be adding right now? That's the first question on your quiz. What do you think is going to happen? Oh, make sure you don't use the word it. Oh my gosh, use a complete sentence, use the proper terminology. Do not use the word it. You did lose points if you use the word, if you didn't have a complete sentence or use the word it on that last assignment I gave you on Friday. Some of you just, oy. All right, now that we're set, we're gonna make it rain. If you have a spray bottle, this is when you use a spray bottle. If you don't have a spray bottle, you can just grab a glass of water with your fingers, splash, 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 sprinkle water. It's, as simple as that. You can be the spray bottle, right? You're not pouring the water. You're kind of like, here's my water, kind of with my fingers, splash, splash, splash. That will be making it rain. I have a water bottle, and I'm going to spray it. Making it rain carefully. Let's not make a mess. Okay. You should be observing what is happening when we make it rain. Okay. What's happening to your pollutant? What's happening to, if you add a color, what's happening there? And I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit less than 5 minutes to go ahead and answer the first part of your quiz.
But we don't have the materials yet.
What happened?
What about the materials we need?
What are you missing?
Food coloring.
If you don't have food coloring, you can do it without food coloring. I did it 5th period without food coloring. Do you have your pollutants? Like sprinkles or rice?
Sprinkles I only use for food.
Right. Do what you can, Miguel. Do what you can. If I'm going too fast, you can also do this experiment on your own after school. I'm recording it so you can catch up later. If I'm going too fast, that's fine. You always have the opportunity to, do things later at your own pace. That's fine.
says here that the Watershed Lab is due by Friday, with
Yep.
2 days to do it.
Yep. As to not
So,
stress. As to not stress
so that
anybody out.
means like,
You
so
can do
you
it.
mean like giving us enough time to do this assignment project?
I won't be giving you time to do it in class, this part. I'm giving you time right now to do it in class. So it would be on your own. The water filtration, I'll give you time on Friday to do it in class. Okay. So we're done with the natural one. So to clean up, you just kind of pick up your paper towels, clean up your watershed. Okay. You leave this like so. You just throw away this. I'm going to throw it in the trash. I want to make a mess. All right. Now, so the second part is you're going to use this. Now, your urban watershed has no paper towels because it's all paved, right? It's all paved. So this represents a urban one. Just your bag. The mountains are still inside here. So what you're going to do is you're going to carefully add your pollutants, your rice, your sprinkles, things like that. Very, 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 very carefully. If you're using food coloring, very carefully. Or again, I'm using cranberry juice. It's, I can see the color of it. If you have Gatorade, any drink that has color, but be very careful not to make a mess. I'm gonna pour in just a couple of drops. It's already, no one gets mad. All right. So I have my urban one, right? Predict what's going to happen to your pollutants. Predict what's going to happen when you add water. What's going to happen to your food coloring. Food coloring is also, it would represent like an oil or some sort of pollutant that's on the surface that's more of a liquid. It's going to make it rain now.
Also, why can't we use the word it in our quiz?
What can you what?
You said something about not using the word it, but every sentence has, like, in reality, some sentences need to have an it.
Yes, but you shouldn't start with the word it. It soaked through. What is it? What soaked through? But if you say like the colored water soaked through and it made a mess. Oh, okay, I get it. You use the word it at the second part of your sentence, not the first part. I understand what it is. Oh, you're talking about the water, colored water. Got it. But if you start, it went through the napkin, I'm like, what went through the napkin? What went through the napkin? I don't know. If you tell me the colored water went through the napkin, it soaked it up or whatever, it got soaked up. Oh, I get it. You're talking about the water color. Got it. The water with color. I understand that. But if you start with the word it, what is it? I don't know. All right. So there is a clear difference when you do this lab. There is a clear difference of what happens in a natural with the paper towels watershed and what happens when you remove those paper towels and basically repeat the lab. There is a clear difference between the two watersheds. And that's what this lab is all about, is for you to see with your own hands, your own eyes, the difference between if we have this natural watershed, what happens to the pollutants, and what happens when there is no napkins, there is nothing catching it. What happens to it? Well, runoff, right? And then to clean up, you just kind of, you carefully like remove the bag, but inside out, right? So the water stays inside the bag. You can also go to the sink and dump this. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So your quiz has 7 questions on it. It's not really a quiz, but it's a quiz. All of the answers are sentences. The first part is based on the ones with the napkin, which is the natural. And the second part is the urban, which is not with any napkins at all. Okay. And this is due on Friday. The last thing I'm going to show you is the video that goes with this. which is the lab itself. While you're watching that, I'm going to throw this out. It kind of goes over your experiment, but having someone else do it for you, which is not the same. It's not as fun as watching someone do it than doing it yourself, right?